In the vast golden silence of southern Africa, legends are not born, they are carved in blood, silence and exile. Among the mighty roars of kings who ruled the savannas with teeth bared and pride roaring behind them, there was one who never roared the loudest, never stood in the spotlight, but left behind a legacy etched in fear and silence. His name was Zuberi, not the most famous, not the most filmed, but to those who knew the true history of the Mapogo lions, Zuberi was more than a shadow. He was the force that moved just beyond the edge of light, a name never shouted in documentaries, but whispered in fear by those who had witnessed him. In a pride of monsters, Zuberi was the one whose fury didn't come with flair. He did not carry the fame of Makulu's leadership, nor the notorious savagery of Mr. T. He wasn't Scar, the lion with the unmistakable wound across his eye. Zuberi was the fourth, the quiet brother, the enforcer behind the throne, and perhaps the most dangerous of them all. His story begins not with triumph, but with erasure. A cub born in chaos, his lineage uncertain, his first memories soaked in dust and the blood of half-siblings. He was neither cherished nor protected. In the world of lions, only the strongest survive. But Zuberi wasn't just strong. He was forgotten, and that made him something more. Forgotten lions do not seek the crown. They grow under it, beneath it, around it, until the day they devour it. Zuberi, born in silence, would rise not as a king adorned in glory, but as a shadow, behind thrones, a ghost of power, a myth carried by scars and absence. In the beginning, Zuberi was nothing more than another body among the Mapogo coalition's growing power. 6 males, bound by blood and brutality, roamed the Sabi sands like a storm. Together they tore through prides and coalitions, leaving behind a scorched legacy. But within that unity, hierarchy simmered like magma beneath stone. Makulu, the silent tactician, led with wisdom carved from experience. Mr. T ruled through violence and fear, always the first to strike. Scar and Rasta carved their places through loyalty and teeth. Pretty Boy lingered between diplomacy and danger, and then there was Zuberi, often unnamed, often unmentioned, but always there when the killing was done. He never initiated. He never spoke in dominance displays. But those who watched closely noticed something haunting. Zuberi's eyes didn't burn with rage. They observed, absorbed, calculated. While Mr. T mutilated rivals with reckless pride, Zuberi followed with surgical precision. He rarely started fights, but finished them with terrifying efficiency. His strategy was not domination, it was survival, then leverage. He was the quiet knife behind the louder roar. In the pride's intimate moments, when rest came and wounds licked themselves clean, Zuberi kept his distance. He was neither exiled nor fully embraced, tolerated but never loved. Even among brothers, there are outliers. His role wasn't defined by hierarchy but by necessity. When another male had to fall, Zuberi never hesitated, he never argued. He just moved, struck, and returned to the shadows. His genius was patience. If you're enjoying the story, hit the like button and leave a comment sharing what has impressed you the most so far. Your support helps this content reach more people who love wildlife. As the Mapogo carved up territory and devoured legacy after legacy of rival bloodlines, the others became complacent. Mr. T believed in invincibility. Makulu trusted in unity. But Zuberi saw the cracks long before they broke. He knew this reign was temporary. All coalitions collapse. All lions grow old. And those who shine too brightly are always the first to burn. While his brothers gloried in their conquests, Zuberi was learning their weaknesses. Every limp, every wound, every flaw. He was studying not only his enemies, but the very lions he called kin. Not to betray them, not yet, but when the time came, Zuberi would not grieve. Time in the wild is not measured in days or seasons, but in scars and disappearances. And with time, the Mapogo began to unravel. It began with the outsiders. A younger coalition, leaner, faster, more desperate, had begun testing the edges of Mapogo territory. While the others dismissed the threat, Zuberi watched. He studied their patterns, their discipline, their hunger. He saw in them the ghosts of his own rise. Then came the death of Rasta, ambushed on the border, torn apart by the very force the Mapogo once represented. His death was not mourned, only acknowledged, another body in the price of rule. But Zuberi lingered near the site of Rasta's last breath, not for grief, for calculation. A missing lion meant a redistribution of strength, one less variable to predict. The lionesses began to murmur. Old loyalties eroded. The fear of Zuberi returned, not as a threat, but as a possibility. Perhaps the ghost lion would return to lead them. Perhaps the silent one, the thinker, was never truly gone. Mapogo sent a final ultimatum, a roar at the boundary line. One last call to settle the score, lion to lion, but Zuberi did not answer. Instead, a day later, another lioness disappeared. Her tracks led east, where the shadow waited. Zuberi was building something new. Not a coalition, not a pride, but a myth. His war was not over territory or females. It was for memory, for legacy. He had already lost his brothers. He would not lose his name. Zuberi's war was not one of open battle, but of attrition, a slow unraveling of the Mapogo's power. His isolation deepened, and with it a myth grew. The ghostly lion who refused to die, the shadow ruler of a kingdom in decay. But every legend demands an ending. The day came when Zuberi faced Mapogo once more. Not in a clash of roars or violent charge, but in a silent meeting at a forgotten waterhole. Both lions carried the scars of past wars. Zuberi's eyes burned with cold fury, Mapogo's with desperate pride. The fight was inevitable. It was not glorious. It was brutal, raw, and merciless. The land itself seemed to hold its breath as the two lions locked jaws and claws, each strike a story of survival, betrayal, and loss. The sun set behind a blood-stained horizon. Zuberi was grievously wounded, his mane torn, his body marked with fresh scars. But he stood victorious while Mapogo lay broken, his roar silenced forever. Yet victory was hollow. Zuberi was no longer the lion who had ruled with cunning and strength. His wounds festered, his body weakened. The pride he once knew was gone, scattered, like leaves in a storm. His kingdom had crumbled into silence, and so Zuberi vanished into the wilds, a solitary figure, wandering the endless savannah, a shadow of the lion he once was. But legends never die. Stories spread through the grasslands of the lion who defied death, who ruled with iron claws and cold resolve. His name whispered in the winds, a symbol of strength and tragedy intertwined. Zuberi became more than a lion. He became myth, the cruel king who fought alone, the anti-hero who dared challenge fate. His tale a warning and an inspiration, a reminder of the fine line between power and ruin. And in the silent nights, if you listen closely, you might hear the ghostly roar of Zuberi echoing through the wild, forever king of a kingdom lost, but never forgotten. The alliance grew brittle. Mapogo and Mr. T argued more often, whether to push deeper into enemy lines or to hold ground. Scar limped from an old wound that would not heal. Pretty Boy grew restless, wandering farther and returning with new scents. Clinging to his mane, Zuberi remained silent. Silent, but not still. He began spending time near the southern edge of the territory, where the young coalition prowled. He never attacked. He watched, hidden in tall grass, unnoticed beneath the shadow of war. He was gathering. When Pretty Boy disappeared, the others assumed cowardice or folly. Zuberi said nothing, but he knew the truth. Pretty Boy had tried to form his own pride, weakened from within, hunted from without. His carcass was never found, but his scent vanished like dust in the wind. 3 remained, Mr. T, Mapogo, and Zuberi. It was then that the whispers began, low growls in the night, sidelong glances, the silence before a strike. The unity of the Mapogo had rotted. What was once a brotherhood had become a cold war, and in cold wars it is not strength that prevails. It is foresight. Zuberi knew that when lions grow old, their teeth don't dull all at once. They lose in pieces, territory, trust, timing. The fall is never sudden. It's silent, like a shadow lengthening at dusk. And dusk was coming for the Mapogo, but not for Zuberi. Not yet. Night in the savannah is not silent. It breathes, it murmurs, it tells secrets to those who know how to listen. Zuberi listened. He had learned long ago that violence did not begin with roars, but with silence, the pause before the kill. And in the growing stillness of the Mapogo, he heard the foreshadowing of betrayal. Makulu and Mr. T, the two pillars of the coalition, were tightening their bond. Meetings in the dark, hunts without invitations, patrols conducted without word to Zuberi. Once they had been 5 lions moving as one. Now they were 2 against 1. Zuberi understood the danger of being the last outlier. But he didn't flinch. He waited. When Makulu made his move, it was not with teeth but with distance, a calculated retreat from shared territory, leaving Zuberi exposed. That night, Mr. T led the charge against an invading coalition to the west, but Zuberi was not summoned. When he appeared on the battlefield, it was already over. Mr. T bloodied but victorious, his eyes cold when they met Zuberi's. Zuberi said nothing, not because he lacked the words, but because words no longer mattered. Alliances were now measured in claw marks and missed meals. The final fracture came with the lionesses. In the pride that Mapogo ruled, the females were not merely mates, they were leverage. Whoever controlled the mating order controlled the future. When Zuberi found one of the females, young, strong, fertile, wounded and cast out, he realized this was no accident. She had once nuzzled against him beneath the acacia trees. Now, she bore the scent of the others, and wounds on her side that spoke of discipline, not accident. Zuberi didn't retaliate. He disappeared. For days he roamed the far corners of the land, crossing rivers, threading through thornfields, leaving no trail. The other lions believed he had abandoned them. In truth, Zuberi was preparing. He was not a lion of brute force. He had never been. He was something worse, patient, intelligent, cold. When he returned, the stars were bright and the wind sharp. He moved silently through the darkness toward the pride. Makulu was sleeping. Mr. T was not. Their eyes met in the eye. Night. There was no roar, only silence. A new war had begun. The confrontation was not loud. It was surgical. Zuberi returned not as a brother, but as a ghost. His movements through the Mapogo territory were quiet and strategic. He no longer hunted with the pride. He stalked its edges, isolating its weakest members, scattering prey from their hunting grounds, turning the land against them. The waterholes grew quieter, the lionesses grew thinner. Makulu ignored it at first, confident in strength and dominance, but Mr. T understood. He could feel Zuberi in the wind, watching, waiting. He ordered more patrols. He roared longer into the nights, but Zuberi never answered. That silence was louder than any challenge. Then, one morning, a young sub-male from a neighboring pride was found dead near the western border, his neck torn, his scent barely recognizable. It was Zuberi's message, written not in words but in wounds. The message was clear. I am not gone. Makulu grew restless. He chased shadows. One night, in a fit of fury, he attacked a hyena den, killing cubs that had done him no harm. The coalition was crumbling not from the outside but from within. And Zuberi watched. He had once been the heart of the coalition. Now he was its reckoning. He never struck in daylight. He came when the lions were asleep, when the winds howled too loud to hear paw steps. He was not killing them yet. He was starving them, weakening their claim to the land, turning their strength into fatigue.